Hello and welcome to Giant Mess, a sloppy sports and entertainment talk show that covers the New York Football Giants, New York Baseball Mets, movies, TV shows, and a whole lot more. It's got some life lessons with some funny stories mixed in for good measure. It's hosted by a Giant Mess. That's me, the Real Cinch Neal Lynch, a former college quarterback and pitcher turned overthinker. You can leave a voicemail at 862-BIT-1986. I think that's 248. 862-BIT-1986. That's BIT. And then the last year that the Giants and Mets won a world championship in the same season. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about the New Jersey Devils. What? We'll be talking about the New York Metros, giving you a breakdown of the past couple series of the week, look ahead at the schedule, the road ahead, and we'll do some roster evaluations. How do the Mets rank in the National League in terms of hitting, pitching, starting pitching, relief pitching, fielding? We're going to cover it all. And then, of course, the meat and potatoes of this episode is going to be our review of the New York Giants 2023 NFL Draft, their picks. What are my thoughts? What are the grades? What are the sexperts saying? So without further ado, let's get it started. Up in here. So I'll quickly go over the Devils. Wow. Down 2-0. They lost game 1, lost game 2 in brutal fashion. Both 5-1 losses. Woof, woof, double woof, triple woof. Vanacek looks lost. The one goal, you can't really blame him. That was a ridiculous shot that went by his ear hole on the far side. And it's like, I don't know how you defend that, dude. But I'm not a huge hockey fan. I don't get to watch a ton of the Devils games or any hockey games for that matter, at least for the Rangers, Isles, Devils, anything, because they're all on MSG, and MSG doesn't come on YouTube TV. So I'd have to get DirecTV or Fubo at like $90 a month, which I guess it's worth it. I don't know. So I haven't got to watch a ton of the games live, but I do follow the leaderboards, the scoreboards and whatnots, the stats. And I failed to check Vanacek's playoff record. And it turns out dude plays better in the regular season than he does the postseason. And, they're down 2-0. And Paul Bizzanetti, Biz from Barstool, also former hockey player, was like, yeah, the Rangers are going to sweep the Devils. And I was like, yeah, I think you're right. And then we sub in Akira Schmid. We get a 2-1 overtime win in game 3. Had 35 saves, only allowed one goal. And I wrote starting game 4 ? As if it was ever a question, because he comes out in game 4. He has 22 saves, only allows a goal. And our defense has stepped up too. The Rangers only had a couple shots after that Truchek goal to tie it up. And then Siegenthaler had the go-ahead goal. And then I think you had the empty netter. And then game 5 on Thursday comes back with another dub, a shutout this time. Schmid is one of 29 goalies to win his first 3 playoff games of his career, and only second behind Normie Smith, the inventor of Normcore, I believe, and fewest goals allowed in his first 3 playoff starts. I'm watching the game right now. I'm recording on Saturday night. It's around almost 10 o'clock. Late in the second period, the Rangers are up 2-1. So not looking too great right now, but at least it's competitive. At least we're keeping it close. Shades of, in case you haven't been following and watching, shades of what happened back in 94 when Messier guaranteed the Game 6 victory and they went on to win that series in advance. But there's another similarity to that series in that I believe that 94 postseason is when Brodeur pretty much arrived. Martin Brodeur. I'm pretty sure that's when he arrived on the scene and kind of took over the reins from what's his face. He was number 31. Oh my God. I had it on the tip of my tongue and I forgot. So I feel like we've now entered the Akira Schmid era. He's only 22. He's going to turn 23 in like a month. He's very close to turning 23. 6'5", 205. They call him the Torpedo. And putting up some historic numbers, and the moment's not too big for him. Feels like you got to ride him for the rest of the playoffs, So good to see the Devils back in the postseason. Good to see them being successful, because I think you after watching those first two games, it was like, oh, what's happening? Like, because I was used to, when the Devils were in their heyday at the top of their game, winning Stanley Cups, it was defense, right? Defense, defense, defense. And with this team, it's more about being opportunistic, taking advantage of fast breaks and whatnot. And they have the goal scorers and Hughes, Heischer, Bratt, picking up Timo Meyer, but they're not, other than like Severinson, I didn't really think too much or too highly of their defense. So it's kind of a flip of whatever they're used to. And now the Rangers just went up 3-1 on another goal. Top shelf. Okay. So kind of looking like the series is going to be tied heading back to Jersey for game 7. But who knows? We'll see. Would love to just get the Rangers off our plate and then focus on the likes of Carolina and possibly Boston. I guess Boston is having that has their hands full with the Florida Panthers. So wouldn't that be just a kick in the dick for the Bruins to put up a historic season? I want to say it was the best regular season since the Canadiens back in the 70s. But it was also reminiscent of like that Tampa Bay team that also put up like 100 some odd points or something like that, and then got eliminated in the first round. So just another example of how, like, I don't know that we shouldn't put too much weight and significance on the regular season. I mean, just looking at the NBA playoffs, the Miami Heat upset the number 1 seed, Milwaukee Bucks. And I think the Heat had to do a play-in game to get into the postseason. So you just got to get hot when it counts, I guess. So that's the Devils. Let's talk about the Mets. I feel like a fool because I was wrong in my series by series breakdown from the last time we talked. So we'll have some errors and omissions here and there. And E&O from this one, we won the series against the Padres. We did not lose that series against the Padres. So I feel like maybe we did break the curse and reverse the curse and break the schneid against the fathers. So that was good to see. That was before, I believe that was before Tatis came back. So I don't know how the Padres are doing since then, but I took a brief a peek at the NL West standings, and it's like the Diamondbacks are in first, Dodgers are second. The Giants are possibly getting better, getting healthier, getting guys back. We did take the series against the Dodgers 2-3, which was good. We did. The one loss was to Clayton Kershaw, who picked up his 200th or 300th win and was pretty much lights out most of the night. And McGill came back down to earth, right? He's no longer in that top echelon of leaders in terms of starting pitching. Yacobonis got a dub. Yacobonis coming out and looking good. Max Scherzer obviously getting suspended for sticky foreign substances, sweat and rosin, and suspended for 10 games, and said he was not going to appeal it because he knew he was going to lose. Okay, well, better than anyone, I guess, the little grizzled vet. And then Yacobonis, pitching his best, and then coming off the mound, and you're like, what? You're not going to check me? What? You're not going to check me? But I'm pitching so well. And we finally got to face Syndergaard, which was good. He no longer is avoiding us. And that's good. That's good for you, Noah. Avoidance is a defense mechanism. That's what my therapist says. So the West Coast trip looks like it's going pretty good. We take the first 2 of the 4-game set against the Giants. Offense looks like it's in high gear. We win 9-4. Kodai Senga gets the win. Manaea gets the loss for San Francisco. Then Joey Lucchesi comes back into the mix. Chirp, chirp, chirp. We get a 7-0 shutout win, and you're thinking to yourself, wow, does it get any better than this? And no, it does not, because we then lost the next 2 games, 7-4, 5-4. This Doval guy that San Francisco has that comes in and just throws fucking 102 miles per hour. Holy crap, dude. And the movement he gets on it is outrageous as well. Logan Webb pitched a gem. David Peterson is just not pitching well. I couldn't have been more wrong about David Peterson. And it also goes to prove my other point, which is spring training is like, doesn't really show you anything. It doesn't, I don't know. I just don't think it's like this grand indicator of how a player is going to play over the course of 162 regular season games. And Peterson's a prime example of that because he came out and he's getting rocked. Walks, home runs. It's unfortunate because it would have been nice to have a lefty starter, and now we're kind of they've now optioned him down to Syracuse. But on the bright side of things, we are getting Max back, I guess, this week, May 1st or 2nd. Justin Verlander just had his rehab start with the Rumble Ponies. He pitched fairly well from the stat line that I saw. So it'd be good to get those two back in the mix because the starting pitching, I would say, has been one of the main reasons why we do lose games and why we lost 2 of 3 against the friggin' Nationals, who are in last place in the East. Getting shut out 5-0 on Tuesday, losing 4-1 on Wednesday. This guy Gore, who I've never heard of before, the lefty, was amazing. I think there was I don't know if it was the first, second game, the Nationals pitching had 15 strikeouts. So the Nationals pitching on point, our pitching not on point, at least from the perspective of our starting pitching. I think Senga was off in that series. We had Buto, who came in and as a spot starter, and not his best effort. And then we had the come from behind win late in the game on Thursday, 9-8. You had Lindor hitting. You had McNeil with a triple. You had Pete Alonso with a tying it up or go ahead hit. So offense came back to life a little bit. Brooks Raley gets the win. David Robinson gets the saved. It's good to see that he's still operating at a very high level. But then it was just announced that Raley's going to go on the 15-day IL retroactive to yesterday, which I guess makes sense. I mean, he's 35 and we've been using him almost every game. I think he's been one of the most used relief pitchers in all of Major League Baseball. And then we started our series against the Braves and we get shut out 4-0. It was a game called after 5 innings, but Max Fried was pretty much on point. And David Peterson was not yet again. And that's what prompted him getting sent down. So we're 15-12. I'll take it, as long as we're hovering around 500 with all that's going on. To hover around 500 is still a win in my book. We're 3 games back of Atlanta. I think if you can continue to keep that number to single digits throughout the year, I'm also comfortable with that. We're 1 game ahead of Miami, and Miami, I think, is surprising a lot of people. The Marlins, surprising a lot of people. We have the same record as Arizona, as I mentioned, who are first in the NL West. Pittsburgh is 18-8. I don't think a lot of people saw that coming. They're in first. The Brewers are in second. I think maybe the Cardinals are in third or whatever. It's April baseball. I don't know. I think I will start living and dying with this team once maybe a little bit towards the trade deadline. If we are 10 games below 500, 10 games back of Atlanta at the trade deadline, and we don't make any moves, yeah, I'm gonna be in a sour disposition. I'm gonna be in a funky mood. But it's April, May baseball. It's the first, not even the first quarter of the season, I don't think. We played less than 30 games out of 162. I think if we can get all this goddamn toxic bullshit out of our system now so it doesn't happen towards September, I'm all good. I'm all for it. I mean, the year the Nationals won the World Series, they started 1931. Last year, the Phillies were in third the entire season. I don't think anyone paid them any attention or mind, and they ended up going to the World Series. So it's as long as, I don't think the injuries have gotten completely out of control. They have ravaged our starting pitch, and there's no doubt about that. But if we need our bullpen to stay healthy, especially Ottavino, especially Robertson, so those are two key. I think Ottavino just came back is coming back or just came back from the paternity list, so it's good to have him back in the fold. So, the Braves are the Braves. You want to win another friggin' division title? Great, good for you. But what is unfortunate is there was a snapshot, right? They put up the graphic of the upcoming schedule, and they say, well, at least things are getting a little bit easier for the Mets after this West Coast swing. With the exception of Atlanta, we got the Washington, the Nationals, the Tigers, the Rockies. That's an easy part of the schedule. They should be able to pick up a fair amount of W's there. And of course, we lose 2 or 3 to Washington. And so it doesn't look like, today's game, Saturday's game was postponed. It's going to get pushed to a doubleheader in August. And then tomorrow's game, Sunday, probably not going to get played at all. I don't think. I'm sorry, I'm just pouring a Wild Basin hard seltzer with real juice, 100 calories, strawberry. Looking for a little variety. Don't want to just crush White Claws all the time, so I'm trying to mix it up. Went with the Wild Basin. So I don't think they're going to get tomorrow's game in. Like my daughter's soccer camp or whatever practice for Sunday was canceled on Friday or Thursday. So I don't think they're going to get that in. So now we're looking ahead to maybe they'll play Monday day game. Whoever is putting together the schedule and says, it would be great if we have a lot of weekday day games. What are you doing? I understand it's a day, and maybe this goes into the whole travel policy. Like we want to make sure that we get the game in so that they can travel and get enough rest. And I get that, but too many weekday day games. Like people have to work. No one's going to go to the game and no one's going to watch the game because they have friggin' work. Old man rant over. So maybe it'd be nice to get a win in a Monday day game, steal one from Atlanta. I don't know who we have pitching or starting on that one. Who do we got? Do we know? Jesus. I don't even know who's up in the rotation now, dude. I don't know. But then we have a 3-game set at Detroit against the Tigers. We get to face old Javi Baez, see what he's up to, if he's still wildly swinging at pitches way out of the strike zone, and then turning base running blunders into base running wonders. So you got to think that, Detroit's 9-15? Last place in the AL Central? You got to think, okay, we got to take at least 2 or 3 there, if not get the sweep. And then we come back home to face Colorado and face the Rockies and the weekend, Cinco de Mayo weekend, Mother's Day weekend, which historically we stink and suck on holidays. So you can expect us to drop the Sunday affair. Or no, that's the following Sunday. Okay, so maybe we don't lose that Sunday. I think our record on Sundays stinks anyway, as far as I recall. So you got to hope that we take 2 or 3 or sweep Colorado, and we'll be right back in the mix there in terms of staying alive in the playoff hunt. I think we currently have like a 85% or 89% chance of making the postseason. But again, it's not even May, guys. Not even May. Right now, I think it's like you want to make sure you don't want to go into complete cruise control, but you also don't want to this is not the playoff stretch. Right. I think it's just like, let's work out the kinks and let's just stay even keeled, trust the process. In terms of roster and player evaluation, I thought I'd take a different approach this week. We're looking at how the Mets rank in the National League in terms of some key metrics, right? Because I'm a stats guy. I like to analyze the piss out of just about everything in my life. So why not the Mets? And why not we'll start with pitching. We have the 5th least runs allowed per game, and I think that's a testament to our bullpen and the job that they've done. But we are giving up a National League leading 38 home runs ahead of the Rockies, Giants, Cardinals, and D-backs. We average 1.5 home runs allowed per 9 innings. We've also allowed the most walks, tied with the D-backs, allowing 4.1 walks per 9 innings. And our 2.15 Ks to walks ratio is third worst in the National League. So, yeah, I mean, that's when it comes down to it, that's where we're coming up short. And I think that's a case of lack of control, right? Location, just like real estate. We're not putting the ball where it needs to be. We're not locating our pitches, leaving them out over the zone, in the zone, over the zone, in the sweet spot, the wheelhouse, or just not hitting our spots and walking guys. We've stranded the fourth most runners, so it could be a whole lot worse. You look at the runs allowed per game. If we're not stranding all those runners, I think we could flip our record right now and probably be at least 12 and 15 or worse. So at least when we do get in jams, we know how to get out of them. We're also tied for the most hit by pitch HBP with the Dodgers of Los Angeles. Again, going back to control, right? Accuracy, not being able to locate. We're dead last in FIP, which is field independent pitching. And we're fifth. We have the fifth worst WHIP, walks and hits per innings pitched. Yeah. So, I mean, our starting pitching, if you want to talk about like wins above average by position, our starting pitching is -1 in the National League, which is second worst behind the Cardinals. Our relief pitching is 0.2 on the other hand. And we're tied for fourth with the Cubs, Marlins, and Nats, all of whom are, with the exception of the Nats, I'd say are overperforming, over expectations, I think, maybe. It's been a house of horrors for our starting pitching. There's no way to sugarcoat it. I mean, Scherzer was not pitching that great before he got suspended. Verlander had the injuries, been out, hasn't pitched a single inning. Senga's been healthy, but has been his last start or two, bit rocky. Quintana hasn't thrown a pitch in an inning yet, and it might be July when he comes back. Carrasco has the bone spur in his right elbow, so his return's unclear. So now you got to deal with, you have McGill, Lucchesi, who pitched well in his first start, and you're hoping that he can give you more of that. John Curtis has been recalled from AAA Syracuse, so that's going to help bolster the bullpen a little bit. And Jeff Brigham has been a ray of sunshine for us. Quite the nice start to his career. This is from the 24th, so it was a few days ago, but in 4 games, 4 innings pitched, 7 Ks, 12 batters faced, 3 inherited runners, 0 scored. So that was was that a result of the trade with the Marlins? I think we got him from the Marlins, so that's been a huge pickup. Hopefully he can continue with that level of performance. As far as hitting goes, we're slightly above average in runs per game and total runs scored, but we're below average in hits, doubles, triples, and home runs. Our slugging percentage stinks. I mean, you take away Pete Alonso, and our slugging percentage is near the bottom of the barrel. We don't strike out a lot, and we do walk a lot. We're second in walks, and we have the third worst batting average, but we're fifth in on-base percentage, so that you can tell, like, it's either walk or die with us, and I think that was a huge criticism of Daniel Vogelback's game, but that's not just specific to Vogelback. That's affecting the whole lineup, and we're second in runners left on base. So you can see like where we're coming up short. Again, it's the whole runners in scoring position type thing, ducks in the pond, got to get them in, and we tend not to do that a lot of the time. So if you look at, we went National League wins above average by position. We did started pitching, relief pitching. How about we go through the fielders, the field. Catchers -1. It's the worst in the National League. I mean, not having Narvaez has been really painful. Francisco Alvarez has growing pains, although he did get a monster home run the other day in San Francisco. So, I mean, maybe Alvarez is starting to come around. Nito has been pretty bad. First baseman, though, 0.3, which is tied for second best. Attaboy Pete. Second base, which has been split between McNeil and Guillorme, is 0.2, which is tied for the middle of the pack. Third base is a minus 0.2. I think that's mostly due to Escobar. It's been improving since Beatty came up. Shortstop is a 0.6. Attaboy Frankie. You can't call him Frankie. Francisco Lindor, tied for fourth in the National League. Left field, this is mostly Mark Canha's minus 0.1. Canha's been struggling. Center field's a 1, though. That's Brandon Nimmo, second best in the National League. There's now rumblings and mumblings about Mr. Nimmo being in the MVP discussion, which I wholeheartily agree with. Right field's a minus 0.2. I don't think enough people are talking about how much Starling Marte is struggling right now. I don't think he's really performing at his best. DH, which was a major concern coming into the season, is a 0, which is actually fourth best. So as much shit as we gave Epler and the organization for not addressing the DH, DH has not been the problem. And pitch hitting is at a minus 0.1, which I don't know where that ranks, but it's not great to be in the minus there. So, you're looking at, would love to have Marte step up, would need Canha to step up. I think Beatty is pretty much your starting third baseman going forward, right? His last 5 games, he's 7 for 15 with the double, a home run, and 2 RBIs. That's a 467 batting average. Obviously he'll probably cool off, but as long as he's giving us quality at bats and contributing and not being a complete liability in the field, which I don't think he is, I think he pretty much has won that job at third base. In terms of fielding, we're fourth in defensive efficiency and fifth in fielding percentage. We did have especially Pete had a horrific night. I don't know if it was against the Braves. I think it was against the Braves or the Nationals, where it's like he had that the pop up in the infield he dropped or missed. There was a pickoff attempt he couldn't get to. It was just a bad night in the field for Pete. But other than that, I think there was maybe a 3-error game. They didn't have a ton of those kind of games last year. I don't think they've had a ton of those kind of games this year. And that matters. I know like fielding kind of gets overlooked most of the time, but if you're just making the plays, getting outs when you have chances, you're in a better position to win ball games. So Brandon Nimmo, let's talk about it. This is from Matthew Brownstein. 2022, his average exit velocity was 89.4 miles per hour, and his hard hit rate was around 40%. This season in 23, his average exit velocity is 92.1 miles per hour, and his hard hit rate is above 52%, which is the 91st percentile in Major League Baseball. And now we have the Brandon Nimmo Gnome, which I dig. Major League is one of my favorite movies of all time. They had Joe Boo, right, to break the schneid, to get get rid of the bad voodoo, bring in the good voodoo, the mojo. It's a thing. And I think once you are going through the struggles that the offense has gone through, in the latter half of the San Francisco series into the first couple games against Washington, sometimes it's all you need is a little something. As silly as it seems from the outside, that kind of stuff, it becomes infectious in the clubhouse. So I love to see it. Do not think it's hokey. Do not think it's lame. Think it's amazing. Jeff McNeil has 61 multi-hit games since 2022. It's the third most behind Freddie Freeman and Bo Bichette. It's good company to be in. Seems like McNeil, there were some talks about him struggling early on. I think he's coming around, as I mentioned in the last episode. I have complete confidence in him that he'll bounce back. And there was, I guess, one of the games, Gelbs was talking, they go to Gelbs, and Gelbs was talking about how there was that one year, I don't know if it was 2020 or 2021, where the hitters were just inundated with analytics, which I know I just ran through a whole bunch of analytics, and your head's probably spinning right now. So ironic that I would bring this up, but Gelbs was talking about how McNeil just completely stopped listening to that. Like they have these hitters meetings and he just doesn't listen. Like he goes, but he just doesn't, he's not paying attention. And he has like some kind of agreement with the hitters coaches, the batters coaches, Chavez and that crew, that like he's not gonna, he'll go, but he's not gonna listen. And of course, Gary Cohen's like, so does he just go in and like do the crossword puzzle? Is like he just, what is he doing in those meetings? I thought that was funny, but yeah, sometimes it's just like, I guess he's been talking to Nimmo, right, or other lefties in the lineup, and just saying, "What do you see? What should I expect?" And that's as simple as it gets. For some guys, like analytics helps. For some, it doesn't. It just becomes you get too into your head, and it's not just a read and react situation. So, you do what works for you, and it's working for Jeff. So, kudos for knowing what works for you and being vocal about it and going about your biz, handling your biz. We talked about the Alvarez home run. This is a crazy stat. The highest pitches hit for a home run this season. Alvarez, who's not a big guy, he seems like a smallish type of dude. I don't know what his height is, but I'd be shocked if he's 5'10". Not to say that 5'7", 5'10" is short. It's not. He's 5'11". He looks shorter. It's interesting. I'm like 5'11". So he comes across as a shorter dude, but 3.87 feet. So I guess that's from home plate up. That's almost 4 feet. And then there's I guess Aaron Judge, who's 6'7", hit a home run that was almost 4 feet off the ground. Lindor hit a home run that was 3.9 feet, which was higher than Alvarez. But for some reason, the Alvarez one, it was like, felt like he was tomahawking it. And then Gavin Sheets, who I don't know what his height situation is like, but 4.34 feet. I used to it only happened in Little League, but that was like my go-to was tomahawking pitches that were like eye level and hitting them for going yard. That was like my heat map was red up by the eye level. It was like up above the strike zone box that they have. And so anytime it got up there, it was like, I'm just gonna tomahawk the shit out of this, and we're gonna get some Mickey D's, bro. Yeah, so honestly, I'm not too worried about what's going on with the Mets. I think, we can get right against the Tigers and the Rockies. If we can steal one from the Braves, you're looking at like possibility of 7 wins, at least maybe 4 wins, and just keep pace, right? If this is it's not definitely not a sprint. It's a marathon, right? So you just want to keep pace. You want to keep the Braves within view. Just draft them for as long as you can, and then slingshot their ass, Ricky Bobby style, right towards the end. That'd be sweet. So yeah, it's the Mets. Let's talk about the Giants. What a weekend! What a 3-day span for the New York Giants and for GM Joe Shane and for head coach Brian Daboll and for that whole crew, the whole front office, the whole organization. I can't remember a draft this good, like initial reactions, like in the grades that we've seen for the draft so far. Just an incredible, at least rounds through the 3rd round. I think they had probably the best 3 rounds of a draft. I think I saw Patricia Traina was saying that she doesn't remember a draft this good since 2007, which is interesting because, like, in retrospect, the 2007 draft really contributed to that Super Bowl in 2007. I don't know that it really contributed too much to the 2011 Super Bowl, maybe a little bit, but you didn't have like a ton of Pro Bowlers, all pros from that 2007 draft, but yet they were all solid quality contributors. So I would put this above the 2007 draft already without them even having playing it down. I know it's a little wackadoodle. But I I'm just really happy. Really happy. When we were talking about, with the preview last episode, I think I had my mind set. I was set on, despite everyone mock drafting a wide receiver in that first round at the 24th, 25th overall pick. I just felt like it was a better use of our draft capital to go after a day one starting cornerback, and then try and weasel and maneuver and wheel and deal to get a day one starter at center, because those are the two biggest glaring holes. Everyone's like, we need a wide receiver one. I don't know that we need a wide receiver one. I just don't. You look at a lot of teams that are successful, and maybe they do have a wide receiver one, but it's the complementary. It's that room, really. Is that room performing average to above average, and not just like when Justin Jefferson gets shut down on the Vikings, who else are you going to in Minnesota? You have TJ Hawkinson, obviously, but he's a tight end. Adam Thielen, where was he, when Justin Jefferson's getting a double, triple covered, whatever. So you need to have the full complementary buffet of wide receivers. And I don't think wide receiver one was like what we needed the most from the get-go. So I'm glad we did not go that route. I think I'm ecstatic with the Deonte Banks pick, which I completely overlooked in my preview. I just trying to, there we are. There we are. So I love the pick. I started to see more of Deonte Banks' name. I actually signed up for The Athletic, and I started to see him. I think it was Dane Brugler. Brugler is his name, Brugler. He mocked Deonte Banks to the Giants. I think maybe Dan Duggan did. I'm not too sure. A lot of people saying, well, you need to give Daniel Jones weapons. You need to give him a weapon. I was like, well, you can give him. There's plenty of, it's a deep wide receiver class. Plenty of wide receivers go around. I don't know that there are many corners that are day one starters that you can find in the second round, third round. Obviously, like Richard Sherman was a 5th round pick, but it's kind of like, not, I want to say crapshoot, but the likelihood of that happening is not high, right? So Christian Gonzalez goes, or Devin Witherspoon goes number 5 overall to the Seahawks. Emmanuel Forbes, who I thought might fall to us at 25. Wouldn't that be nice? Would have gone to the Giants. Instead, he goes to the Commanders at 16. And then you have Christian Gonzalez, another name that was interesting, but I didn't think was going to fall to us. So I didn't really profile him in the preview. He ends up going 17 to the Patriots. And then we end up trading up one spot with the Jags, giving up a 5th and a 7th. So giving up the pick 25, along with the 5th round pick and a 7th round pick to move up one to get Deonte Banks. His grade is a 6.37. And again, you have these very weird arbitrary grading system where like 6.7 or like 8 is the perfect prospect, like all pro. And then like 7 is like perennial Pro Bowler. And then for some reason they have this one area that's like 6.5, I want to say, is day one starter. And then they have like a 6.3 to 6.4, 6.2 to 6.4. That's boom or bust potential. And then 6.1 or 6.6 is like, could be eventually become a starter. It's like, what? So of course, Deonte Banks is like a 6.37, which is boom or bust potential. But he went ahead of Joey Porter Jr., DJ Turner, Keely Rango, Brian Branch, all of whom were considered to be in the mix for the Giants at the 25. And we moved up to get him at 24. And I honestly couldn't be happier with the pick. And I'll tell you why. If you're a believer in next-gen stats, which I tend to believe, Bijan Robinson, running back from Texas, is the number 1 college prospect in terms of next-gen stats at a 96, which is considered elite. You have Bryce Young, quarterback, Alabama, 92, elite. Christian Gonzalez, cornerback from Oregon, elite, 92. Will Anderson Jr., who went second or third to the Texans, who had pulled off an incredible move to get both Bryce Young and Will Anderson Jr. He's at 90 elite. Those are the only 4 prospects that are considered elite by Next Gen Stats. If you move down, the next category or level is considered good. And you have Deonte Banks at 87, which is good, which is right behind Emmanuel Forbes, which is an 88. And then if you look at, move back up here, in terms of Next Gen Stats, the top overall athletic prospects, along with the top 5 each position, Deonte Banks is number 2 behind Anthony Richardson, who went number 4 to the Colts, I believe. But John Gaines is second, a guard from UCLA. DJ Turner, the corner from Michigan. And I don't even know how to pronounce that. Adetomiwa Adebowor, defensive end from Northwestern. So, right, in terms of athletic gifts, being athletically gifted, physical prowess, guy's a beast. He's a freak. And it's a matter of technique, consistency, right? Those are the things that he probably needs to work on. The technical skills he needs to work on in order to get to that Pro Bowl, All-Pro level. He's definitely our day one starter. I mean, like, I automatically think, given his size, 6 foot, almost 200 pounds, can run. I think he ran a 40 and 4.35, I want to say, something like that. Can tackle well, man-to-man cornerback, and has some upside in zone looks. He's literally the perfect fit for the Giants, because you can put him one-on-one in man and press coverage, and that in-wing system where he blitzes like crazy. We blitz more than any other team in the NFL. So I love the pick. And it automatically, I tweeted this and I stand by it. It puts us, I think, as a defensive unit, it puts us in the top 5 with that pick. He hasn't played a single down in the NFL, and that's what I believe where we're at. So in terms of what the experts think, what are the grades that are being handed out for this pick? The Ringer's Danny Kelly gave it an A-, saying Deonte is a twitchy athlete with good size who plays with anticipation and coverage. Yahoo Sports' Charles McDonald gave him an A-, gave us an A-, saying he can strap up in man coverage and is perfect for Wink's blitz-heavy scheme that makes quarterbacks scream, you know what I'm saying? Mel Kiper Jr. says he's fast and tough and did not allow a catch of over 30 yards all season. And I want to say that he didn't allow any receiver during his career to surpass 50 yards in receiving in any game. Pro Football Focus gave him a very good grade, gave us a very good grade, saying Banks is the 3rd best corner on their big board, can mirror wide receivers, and produce a 72 grade, PFF grade, in his final season, the best of his career. Chad Reuter of NFL.com gave us a B+. Okay, Chad, tough guy. And saying that Banks has a nice size speed combination and looked fluid during workouts at the combine. I love it. Wink loved it. He almost squeezed the life out of Joe Shane after that pick. He was so happy. Banks saying that it felt like family already. So we're off to a good start there. And who knows, with, coming in under the tutelage, the wing of Adoree Jackson, who probably is seeing this might probably be his last season with the Giants. It's important to get someone to step up in that CB1 role once a Jackson moves on. And then you have to draft again. But my God, our defense, I feel really good about our defense moving forward. And then I was thinking, okay, I'm going to go center. I don't want to go wide receiver in the second round. I want to go center in the second round. And sure enough, we did. Minnesota Golden Gopher center John Michael Schmitz with the 26th pick of the second round, 57th overall. Yeah, 6'3", 300. He's a big boy. He's a big boy. I can't imagine trying to get around that to get to the quarterback, but he has the size and strength to earn a starting role in his first season. I'd be shocked if he doesn't start, and can be a nasty on-field finisher. Mel Kiper said he is a steal and fills an immediate need. Top-ranked center. Pro Football Focus gave us an elite grade for this one, saying if we made this pick in the first round, nobody would have batted an eye. And we led all centers with a 92.3 PFF grade in 2022, graded well both on zone and gap plays. A big guy that can really move and was a 4-year starter, one of the best run blockers of the position to enter the draft in recent years. He is 24 years old, so it's not like, he's too young for the spotlight, the stage. I think he's mature enough and old enough to step right in and perform. Sporting News, Vinny Iyer gave it an A+, saying he'll be a long-term snapper and line leader for them, for the Giants, as the draft's best pure center. I guess the other option was Joe Tipperman. I think that's how you say it, Joe Tipperman. He went to the Jets as they ended up losing, McGovern to the Bills. The Athletics' Scott Docterman, he gave the pick an A, saying Schmitz is big, thick, and experienced. Started 36 games over 4 seasons, allowed just 2 sacks and 3 quarterback hits in the past 3 seasons. That is astonishing. And he was PFF's highest graded center, first team All-American, a finalist for the Remington Trophy. SB Nation's Joseph Acosta gave it an A, saying Schmitz is a tough and physical center who will play through the whistle. CBS Sports' Chris Trapasso gave it an A, saying he's an instant starter, large but nimble, reach blocks galore. Recovery ability is there too, not dominant, but simply blocks everything. And that's all we're asking for, baby. I like pancakes, but I don't need pancakes. Have you seen my gut? Bleacher Report's Brent Sobleski gave it an A. The 24-year-old is a ready-made pivot who likely would have been in the first or second round conversation had he chosen to declare for the 2022 draft. First team All-American, polished and experienced, who's capable of taking over snapping duties. Pro Football Network's Ryan Gosling, yes, that Ryan Gosling, also gave it an A, saying he has fantastic hands. But he does lack the kind of length that most executives thirst for. But as long as he keeps his lower half moving, Schmitz is a fantastic run blocker, which I watched the NFL draft show special from Barstool Sports, and Taylor Lewan was on the program, and he said that arm length is overrated. Like, he doesn't have long arms, and he's a 2-3-time Pro Bowler. So I don't know if I could be any happier with that pick. A+ from me, dog. And then, so in the third round, it felt like forever. We had the 89th pick overall. It was the 26th pick of the third round. And by God, it felt like it was forever. It felt like, I don't know how this was possible, but how was 57 closer to 24 than 89 was not, like, it just didn't add up in my head. And the moment I tweeted that, Joe Shane then traded up to 73 to take Jalin Hyatt, wide receiver from Tennessee, the Volunteers. I thought this dude was taller and bigger, but I guess it's just an optical illusion because he's 6', 176. After watching his tape and seeing pictures of him, I was like, this dude's got to be like 6'2", 6'3", 215. It just seemed like that body type, but no, he's more of like a Devontae Smith size, even though he looks longer and taller. I don't know. Very interesting. Mel Kiper said the speedster is a deep threat, but he needs to refine his route running. He had him as his 5th ranked wideout overall and said could sneak into the first round. So the fact we got this dude in the friggin' third round is so impressive. And that's basically the gist. Like, if you need to know, and there's a couple ways you can look at it, but like, if you need to know how impressive the first day 1, day 2 haul was for the Giants and Joe Shane, the fact that all 3 of these players, Schmitz, Banks, and Hyatt, were projected to go to the Giants or mocked to the Giants at that first round pick at 25. All 3 were in the consideration, the running there, and they got all 3 over the course of 3 rounds is truly a magnificent feat. Now, the haters might say, well, maybe they got these players, Schmitz and Hyatt, so late because the other executives saw some major red flags or they were slipping because of XYZ. I choose not to look at it that way. I think that we worked it Missy Elliott style, the right appropriate amount, and made some and saw picked and chose our spots. Who knows? Like, how many times, and we said this in the preview, how many times have we seen the guys that we wanted, we get leapfrogged by some other team, the Eagles, the Cowboys, whoever, a rival leapfrogs us and takes the guy that we want. Joe Schoen did not allow that to happen, whether it's trading up one spot or trading up 16 spots. He saw the opportunity, saw the threat, and said, okay, let's get it done. We have 10 picks to play with. The later day 3 picks, like we said, more of a crapshoot. You're not too sure about it. So it's like, we have those in spades. We have those available. Let's go for it. And yes, he did have to give up I think he had to give up a 4th to get to Hyatt, but you accomplished what you were setting out to do. What were the 3 major primary needs? Corner, center, wide receiver. Boom, boom, boom. Check, check, check. Steal of a pick, ideal vertical threat from Sporting News, A+. 33rd team, A+. The most explosive wide receiver in the draft. Hits top speed quickly, polished, understands how to run routes and set up defenders. And I saw a film breakdown from Bobby Skinner of Talking Giants, and this dude can jet, like leave people in the dust. And he has the ability to, like 33rd team said, to set up defenders where it looks like, you're just setting up thinking that you're going to go outside, cut inside. Now, he does get a little lazy on certain routes, I guess, when he knows the ball is probably not going to come to him. Just like, I think you looked at the film breakdown of Deonte Banks, there are times where there are lapses, maybe mental lapses, and it ends up not really biting him in the ass, but you can see like it happens. And I don't know that you can do that at the pro level. Like, you have to be 100% all the time. Ryan Gosling, again, hot goss, coming in with an A grade, saying Hyatt is pure unadulterated speed threat. Has an extra gear that you don't see from any other receiver in this draft class, which is like really, really cool to see and hear. So SB Nation's Joseph Costa gave it an A, saying he'll stretch the field. The Athletic Scott Doctorman gave it an A-, saying Hyatt ran a 4.4 at the combine, but his acceleration dwarfs that time. He had 20 catches of 20-plus yards, 7 catches of 50-plus yards, led the nation in virtually every deep ball category. Last season, he caught 67 passes on 89 targets for almost 1,300 yards and a school record 15 touchdowns at 18.9 yards per catch. He won the Biletnikoff Award as the nation's top receiver, became the 13th unanimous All-American in Tennessee history. He's a burner. And I want to say, and this stat could be completely wrong, but he averaged something like either 20 or 40 yards per touchdown reception, which is just absurd. I mean, he went off against Alabama. He had 5 touchdowns and 270 receiving yards. So, and that's an elite, top-notch defense. So right there, I'd say if we just came away at those 3 players, I think it's still an A+ draft, but we still had a few more picks to go. Of course, the 4th rounder went away once we got Hyatt. In the 5th round, we gave one of those away to the Jags to move up one spot to get Deonte Banks. So our next pick was the 37th pick. This was a compensatory pick, 172nd overall. And we went running back. Eric Gray, Oklahoma Sooners. He's I think it's like 5'9", 200 pounds. So a little bit on the smaller side. Pro Football Network gave it an A. Gave us an A for that. One of the most underrated backs in an incredibly talented class. Very cool to see. CBS Sports gave us a B+, saying Gray is a versatile weapon with a deceptive elusiveness and a quickness that is more impressive than his speed. He's not a fast dude. I think he ran a 4.6 40 or something like that. Hard to disrupt equilibrium, which that was probably the coolest trait that I saw being thrown around. Hard to disrupt equilibrium. It's like a Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. Like, is that Eric Gray? The Athletics' Dan Brugler said that Gray put together a career year as a senior, leading the Big 12 in rushing yards per carry at 6.4, and then ranked 2nd in rushing yards per game at 113.7. Quick to gather, plant, and burst with the explosive cutting skills to shake defenders and pick up chunk yardage. His 44 carries of 10-plus yards in 2022 ranked number 7 in the entire FBS. He isn't an inside grinder, but he stays behind his pads with low center of gravity and pacing that help him pinball off contact. Fuck yeah, dude. I almost love those kind of players more. It's just like you can't bring them down. They're just like bing, ba, bing, 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 bing. Like that. That's really cool to me. So obviously I want Saquon back. I don't know what this means for the likes of, I guess, Gary Brightwell. Is he on the hot seat? Because I don't know that. Are you going to carry 4 running backs every game? Is he going to be used in special teams? I think that's a high possibility or high probability because right now, I think you had Brightwell returning kicks. Now, is Gray going to return kicks alongside Brightwell? Because I know that Gray, I don't think he returned kicks or punts his senior year, but his junior year, he did return a few kicks and punts. So maybe there's an opportunity there, once to get his legs underneath him and contribute that way. NFL.com's Lance Zierlein said that Gray is a decisive, creative runner with the size and skill set for 3-down consideration at the pro level, a reliable threat of the backfield with soft hands and a willingness to block. That's a key. You got to remember that. It's a key phrase, willingness to block. And 3-down backup with a future starter potential. I like that. The 33rd team said he's a solid 3-down running back prospect with adequate tools and instincts, tough, decisive runner who lacks juice when he hits the second level, which is kind of a womp-womp. But at the same time, nice to have another guy that can grind out the tough yards and get that extra yardage, a la maybe an Orleans Darkwa, or even a Wayne Gallman. He was always ended up, getting positive yardage after the contact, which I don't know that you see that too often from Matt Breida. Like, I like Matt Breida, but I don't know that he is going to give you that yards after contact. Pro Football Focus gave Gray an elite 90.6 PFF grade in 2022. He graded well on both zone and gap plays, a little on the small size, but he posted a 96.2 elusive rating, one of the best marks in the running back class. Is as we mentioned, 44 carries of 10-plus yards last season, is first among Big 12 running backs. Again, another great pick. We knew that we probably had to address running back with the Saquon situation being what it is. Knowing that Breida is on a 1-year contract, back on a 1-year contract, not really knowing what you have in Gary Brightwell. It's like, this is a pick for the future, right? We're going to looking out for the future, making sure that we're well stocked for the future. So I don't hate it. Needed a depth piece there, and we got it. Speaking of depth, in the 6th round, the 209th overall pick, 32nd pick of the 6th round. This is the compensatory pick from the Chiefs. We picked Larry Hawkins III, aka Trey Hawkins. That's what his best friends call him. We're biffs, we're BFFs, so I call him Trey. I'm not sure that you can, but you can call him Sir Larry. Old Dominion defensive back. Finished his senior season with 60 tackles and 2 picks. Started all 25 games the past 2 seasons with noticeable improvements in the senior season. Penalties dropped from 6 to only 1 in 2022, which is good to see. I know that was an issue or concern with Deonte Banks, is that when he does get beat or does mess up in coverage, he has a tendency to like tackle the guy, just straight up tackle the guy, which I don't know that I hate a lot of the time. It's like, I don't want to get torched for a touchdown here. Let's just tackle him. Take the yardage, penalty yardage. So it's good to see that he cut down on that, because I know that that's sort of a problem with Darnay Holmes right now. So just something to work on. Tall, long, and limber body type with the gather and go skills to quickly transition vertically and stay attached to receivers, which I dig. I know that was another positive trait from Deonte Banks, was his ability to, if he does get beat on a vert, that he has the ability to catch up and be in that hip pocket. His Hawkins' long speed is impressive. His average lateral agility will put him in recovery mode and shows up as a tackler. Will get clingy and needs to prove his play recognition. So, but I think he's kind of a bigger body. I want to say he's like 6'3", which is good because I don't know that we have a ton of bigger bodies in the mix in our secondary. So, I know I talked about that in the preview. Like I sort of miss the days of having like a 6'2", 6'3" DB that can match up and physically own opposing wide receivers in that 5-yard contact zone. ESPN's Steve Munch said Hawkins is tall and long with good top end speed and quickness, tough and tends to wrap up, which is great. We love guys that don't miss tackles. So I like that pick as well. Lots of young talent in that secondary. Someone has to step up, right? I feel like we have so many young draft picks that we have in the back there that at that third level that my God, if just one of them pans out, that would be just phenomenal. I know Cordell Flott made some strides toward the end of last year, and it'd be nice to see, does Aaron Robinson bounce back and have a good sophomore effort? Does Rodarius Williams actually, is he still on the roster? I don't know. Oh, jeez. On to the 7th round, the last round. We had a few picks in the 7th round, but we ended up giving up one of those in the Deonte Banks trade to move up with one with the Jags. So we had 2 left after that. The first of which was the 243rd overall. This is the 26th pick of the last round. Jordan Riley, defensive tackle from the Oregon Ducks, 6'5", 330. That's about it on that dude. That's about the full scouting report that I have on that guy. Because you look, there's like this Ross score, whatever the hell that is. I know that Deonte Banks had like an elite Ross score, like everything was in green. It's like 9 point something out of 10. Jordan Riley's Ross score was all red. It was like poor, poor, poor. Every category was poor. And then size was just lit up in the brightest of greens, almost a full 10. He is a big dude, but he's not agile. He's not quick. He's not speedy. He's not explosive. And for some reason, his like overall size, great, but his hand size, not, and arm length, not considered elite or whatever, or, high up on the Ross score. So yeah, this is just, that's the feeling here is, I don't know, after seeing the likes of like Ellis and who was the other dude, they're just getting tossed around and they're big bodies that it's like, maybe we don't want to go down this road again. I think this was from Nick Filato, but 10 total pressures and a sack in his career with 19 stops, according to PFF. So you pair him with DJ Davidson, who only played a handful of games last year and got hurt, who's another big fella. You pair him with Nacho, our pickup from the Bucks, who's 31, and our newly signed Ashawn Robinson from the Rams. Now you're starting to feel a little bit better about your depth in the interior defensive line. Someone that can at least help out Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence, give him a breather, give him some rest here and there, save him for the playoffs. So, I think that was something we wanted to address, and we did it. And then our last pick, 37th pick of the 7th round, 254th overall, another compensatory pick, Javarius Owens, safety from the Houston Cougs. Good size and frame, former corner, turned safety, average to good athleticism, movement skills, closing burst and speed, good play strength, toughness and physicality. He's a depth piece and a special teamer. So if I had to guess, Bobby McCain will start opposite Xavier McKinney, and that's that. So what, any positions that we missed? As we had 10 picks going into this, so we ended up with 7. So I think a lot of people thought we might go quarterback, right? A young guy that can, when Tyrod Taylor moves on, can step in as the backup. We didn't do that. Tight end might have been a position that we were kind of considering and looking at, but was not necessary, right? Like we have Belly, we have Waller now, and so tight end might have been a position that we might have needed to address, but not really. Interesting that they took another DB after Deonte Banks. So I mean, we pretty much checked all the boxes. We addressed everything that we needed to address. I mean, I guess A+ is a little out of control. I give it an A minus. Like I don't. This is definitely one of the better drafts that we've had. To come away with 2 day one starters and another guy that can probably see a lot of the field and might even become a starter towards the end of the season. I don't know. As far as your offensive look goes, where does Hyatt fix where does he rank? What's the order of things in that room? I think you have people are thinking Paris Campbell, Wandale, Slayton, Hodgins are your top 4, or does Hyatt move in above Slayton and Hodgins? It'll be an interesting battle. Please God, no more 3-4 guys going down to injury to start the season. Can't have that happen. But you got to feel pretty good about the haul. And for everyone saying, well, we didn't draft a guard. Like, what happened to the guards? We needed a guard. Okay. Let's just take a step back. Or a linebacker was another one. So guard and linebacker were 2 positions I thought maybe we could have gone in and picked up a linebacker or a guard. You have Okereke at linebacker. You have Beavers coming back. McFadden, right, in the mix there. Who else we got? Jared Davis, who now has a full off season to absorb the playbook and get more up to speed on things. I think there's 1 or 2 more linebackers there. Carter Coughlin, maybe. So that's a pretty decent room. You don't know what Beaver's going to give you, especially after the ACL. But that's going to be an interesting competition to keep your eyes on to who's going to be next to Okereke. Is it going to be Beavers? Is it going to be Davis? The more of a veteran presence there. We'll have to see. But guard is another situation where it's like, when we talked about the draft history, right, and the GM's track record in terms of drafts, when we looked at Joe Shane's first draft from last year, there was some like 10, 11 picks. Most of those dudes got hurt. Like Azudu was hurt most of the season, but when he came in, he was solid in some respects and not so solid in other respects. I don't know if it was pass protection, he's okay, run blocking, not so much, or if it was vice versa. So he was in a battle with Brederson for most of the season before he got hurt. Marcus McKeithen didn't even see the field because he got hurt. So who knows what, after a full year of recovering and rehab and whatnot, getting back in the mix, is he someone that can compete? Shane Lemieux is also still in the mix somehow. he's like the Undertaker of our guards. He just keeps rising from the dead. And then obviously Glowinski, but you have a bunch of dudes that are competing for those spots, and I think that only competitive competition breeds excellence. I don't know what that friggin' saying is, dude, but so I don't know that you need to throw another guard on top of that's like not a day one starter. You know what I'm saying? So I think I'm okay with the guards that we have. Once you start to recall, like, okay, we get McKeithen back, we get Azudu back, we have Brederson again, Glowinski, Lemieux. I think there's maybe 1 more. So that feels all right. Tackle might have been another position where it's like I would have nice been to get a depth piece, but we do have Parrott. We do have Tyree Phillips, I believe, again this year. Could be wrong about that. So yeah, I mean, if Andrew Thomas, Evan Neal, and John Michael Schmitz, those 3 core pieces can stay healthy all 16, 17 games or most of those games, we're going to be in a pretty good spot. We can't be like, was it the Rams, or there was another team where like 14 different offensive line starters, which I think we went through that in 2020 or 2021, where it's like, it was just so many revolving door of guys that just couldn't stay healthy. That offensive line, if Schmitz, Neal, Thomas stay healthy, and we get some kind of crazy competition of guys in the guard spots, then maybe Daniel Jones won't be the most pressured quarterback in the NFL like he was last season, the fact that he was and still got us to the playoffs and still won a playoff game is outstanding. Now, what I will say is, Jesus Christ, the Philadelphia Eagles. Can you take a break? Just take a break, Philly. Or should I say the Philadelphia Bulldogs, like the Georgia Eagles. Like, I think they're going to play all their home games in Athens this year. They're definitely an early favorite to win the SEC. Everyone's a friggin' Georgia Bulldog, basically. They drafted, was it Jalin Carter, Jordan Carter, who we're talking about grades. He had that 7 grade, which is like perennial all-pro player. And then they trade and get Nolan Smith, an edge rusher. I think they also got Keely Ringo. I could be wrong about that. Traded for DeAndre Swift, who I thought the Giants should have took a flyer on that. I know it was only going to be for this year, but it was very low risk. It was like maybe $1 million or something like that, less than $2 million. And there's no like dead cap space if it doesn't work out or something. I don't think you might even get a compensatory pick, something. I don't know. It was like, wow, this is very appetizing. And instead the friggin' Eagles got him. So, yeah, the Eagles, dude, continuing to bolster that defense. It's like you think, oh, they lose all these guys at free agency, and then they just stack them up again in the draft. So I think the Eagles are probably, we just, it's so nice to have Schmitz now anchoring the center of the interior offensive line. Because at least it's like gives Daniel Jones like just maybe a half second more to see Darius Slayton just flying down the sideline, or now Jalin Hyatt flying down the seam. So I really like their draft. I think we on paper, we're a better team than we were last year. How many more wins that results in depends on our health, how healthy we stay. If Darren Waller just gives us 75 to 80% of what his Pro Bowl year is, I think we're due for a lot more dubs. I don't want to say I had us at 10 wins last year. We ended up getting 9. We probably should have had 10 if it weren't for John friggin' Feliciano. But I could see us getting 10 wins. I think that's like the minimum this year. I think that's like the minimum. And I think that if we can get to that 11-12 range, I'd feel great about it. But, hard to compete with the Eagles and still the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys got Deuce Vaughn to pair with Pollard. So I think they got better. I trying to get a sense of the Commanders. I didn't really follow much of their draft, but getting Emmanuel Forbes, the dude who had the most pick sixes in college football history or some nonsense. So they're going to be better. I mean, the NFC East was a beast last year, and it's going to be a beast again this year. So, but I do think playing that level of competition twice, 6 of those games out of your 17 at that level of competition prepares you pretty nicely for the playoffs, as you saw when we squared up against Minnesota. So I feel good, feel real good. I don't feel like we missed on anything. There was nothing that made me scratch my head or question anything. I think the coaching staff is super happy about it. The fans should be happy about it. I don't know how you can really complain about any of this. And it just I'm so amped for the season. The schedules come out May 12th, I want to say, Mother's Day, or not Mother's Day, but that week. So maybe 2 weeks, the schedules come out, and I'll make my predictions then. But you got to feel good. You got to feel good if you're a Giants fan, And I know there's probably some, there's a little skittishness around trading up. The last time we traded up for a corner in the first round, it was DeAndre Baker. So there's a lot of comparisons to DeAndre Baker going around, who I don't even think is in the league anymore, which is fucking nuts. But I don't get that sense with this guy, Deonte Banks. I don't think Wink would have really pushed for him that hard and put his stamp of approval on it that strongly if he didn't believe in him. you know. So feel good. That's this week's episode. We ended on a real high note. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. And we'll talk to you soon, okay? Hey, you hang in there. Okay? Love you. Mean it. Adios, muchachos.